Most people don't know how strong they are, not because they haven't been tested, but because they've been through things that would break most people. And they called it normal. They kept moving. They didn't stop to notice what that took. This video is that pause. 10 signs you are already mentally stronger than most people around you. Not signs you're perfect. Signs you're built differently, even if you've never been told. 1. You do the hard thing even when you don't feel like it. Not always. Not perfectly. But you do it. You get up when you're tired. You show up when you'd rather disappear. You push through the session, the conversation, the deadline, even when every part of you is looking for a reason not to. Most people wait for motivation before they act. You've learned, maybe without realizing it, that action comes first and the feeling follows. That is not a small thing. That is one of the rarest mental skills there is. 2. You can sit with discomfort without immediately escaping it. When something is hard, boring, or painful, you don't immediately reach for the phone. You don't always run toward distraction. Sometimes you just sit with it. Psychologists call this distress tolerance. The ability to experience a negative state without immediately acting to make it stop. Research links it directly to emotional regulation, decision-making quality, and long-term performance. Most people can't do it. Their nervous system demands relief the moment discomfort appears. Yours doesn't, or at least not always. And that matters more than you know. 3. You don't need everyone to understand your choices. You've made decisions that people around you didn't get. Decisions that looked strange from the outside, and you made them anyway. You've learned that waiting for approval is the same as handing someone else the remote to your life. That external validation feels good for a moment and means nothing the morning after. Mentally strong people have a stable internal reference point. They know who they are and what they're building, and they don't need it confirmed by the room. If you've ever made a hard choice alone, without anyone cheering for you, you know exactly what this feels like. 4. You've failed and kept going. Not once. Multiple times. You've started things that didn't work. You've had plans fall apart. You've been wrong about things you were sure about. And at some point, instead of deciding that failure meant something permanent about you, you got back up and tried again differently. Angela Duckworth's research on grit found that the single strongest predictor of long-term success was not talent, not intelligence, not resources. It was the willingness to persist through failure without losing the direction. You have done this, probably more than you give yourself credit for. 5. You can control your reaction even when your emotion is real. This is not the same as suppressing how you feel. You feel it, the anger, the fear, the frustration. But you choose what you do with it. You've been in moments that deserved a reaction, and you paused. You've been provoked and held your ground. You've wanted to say the thing that would feel good in the moment and didn't, because you knew the cost. Emotional regulation, the ability to feel without being controlled by what you feel, is one of the highest order mental skills. Most people develop it slowly, painfully over decades. You've been developing it whether you noticed or not. 6. You spend time alone without needing to fill the silence. Not all the time. But you can be alone with your thoughts and not panic. You can sit with yourself. You can drive without music. You can eat without a screen. You can exist in the quiet without immediately reaching for noise. Most people are deeply uncomfortable with silence because silence is where the real thoughts live, the ones they've been avoiding. The fact that you can tolerate that, even imperfectly, means you've developed a relationship with yourself that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. 7. You choose long-term over short-term more often than not. Not every time. Nobody does it every time. But when it counts, when the short-term reward is real and visible, and the long-term benefit is abstract and distant, you choose the harder option more often than you don't. You skip the thing that would feel good now because of what you're building. You invest time, money, or energy in something that won't pay off for months or years. Delayed gratification is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. And you have trained it, even if you don't remember deciding to. 8. You've changed your mind based on evidence. At some point, you believed something. Then you encountered evidence that challenged it. And instead of defending what you believed to protect your ego, you updated. You changed your position. You admitted you were wrong. You moved. This sounds simple. It is extraordinarily rare. Most people treat their beliefs as identity. Changing a belief feels like losing a part of themselves, so they defend the wrong belief to protect the self and stop growing. If you've ever genuinely changed your mind about something important, that is a sign of unusual psychological flexibility. It takes real strength to say, "I was wrong." 9. You protect your peace without apologizing for it. You've said no to things that would drain you. You've left situations that were costing you more than they were giving. You've created distance from people who were pulling you backward, and you did it without excessive guilt. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned that you cannot pour from an empty vessel. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is a prerequisite for sustained performance. And knowing the difference and acting on it is a sign of someone who has done significant internal work. 10. You are here. You clicked on a video about mental strength. You're reading, watching, thinking about who you are and who you want to become. Most people never ask these questions. They drift. They react. They let the current carry them and call it fate. You are actively working on yourself. That is not nothing. That is the foundation everything else is built on. The person who does this, consistently, without applause, when no one is watching, becomes someone other people can't explain. That person is already you, more than you realize. 10 signs. Not a checklist to complete. A mirror to look into honestly, if even 5 of these resonated. If you recognized yourself in them. You are further along than you think. Not finished, not perfect, but built in a way that most people around you are not. The question is what you do with that. See you next week.